This is my camera buying guide. Unlike a lot of other camera buying guide videos, it's not really about which brand to buy, but it's more about which camera to buy. And if you watch this to the end, I promise you will have a very clear idea on what camera you should buy. Let's go. My name is Vic Barry, and for thoughts, techniques and tips on making vids, hit the like button if you find this video useful, and for more of this type of content, hit subscribe. There's lots of different cameras out there. Action cameras like GoPros, compact cameras like the Sony ZV-1, mirrorless cameras, DSLR cameras, antiques, even the camera in your phone. So which one? This is the first big question you need to answer, and what I'm suggesting is that you grab a pen and paper because you're going to write down a few bits that will help you make a great decision on buying or upgrading your current camera. I'll wait while you get a pen and paper. Yeah. What do you want a camera for? What are you doing? Is it talking head videos like just you and the camera? Maybe doing product reviews, makeup, beauty. Or maybe you want a decent camera for streaming, whether that's just live talking head streams, or maybe you're doing some streaming from that brand new PlayStation 5 that you got. It could be vlogs. You want to document your life and you want a good camera to capture everything that's going on. And you also want to shoot maybe some epic B-roll to go along and help tell the story. Alternatively, you've got a great idea to make an amazing documentary and you need a camera that's going to hit all the marks, especially for when you're going to sell it for millions. You want a camera to video some sports for the local community, or maybe just capture your kids kicking a football around the place. Or you want a decent camera for photography, and to hell with video. This is really, really important. You need to answer this, because if you don't get this question right, it's going to be a disaster. Example, if you want to film mainly you whitewater rafting, then strapping a Sony ZV-1 to your helmet isn't going to be the best idea. You need a GoPro. So think about this hugely, and this is the first thing I want you to write down. Write down your answer. Maybe it's one or two answers here. It doesn't matter, you can narrow it down as we go along. Next part of this camera buying guide is what's important. Now, this might get a bit technical, but trust me, if I can understand this, you can too. Look, let's be honest, there's zero point in me blabbering on about stuff that you can't understand, technical jargon, nah. After all, the goal of this video is to help you understand what camera you need and not for me to confuse you even more. When it comes to what's important, here's a couple of bits, right? Audio is hugely important. People see with their ears as well as their eyes. Audiences will tolerate poorish video, but audio that's too low, too high, or worse, distorted, is an immediate stop watching this video right now. Not this one, but you get what I mean. Majority of cameras inbuilt mics sound okay when you're up close to them, but even then it varies from camera to camera. Sony ZV-1 mic. Now let's plug in something a little bit more. Saramonic SRX-M1 with the levels dropped down to about 9 or 10. So really consider a camera that would allow you to plug a mic into it. It doesn't have to be an expensive mic. Even cheap ones like the Saramonic SRX-M1 will make a big difference. Also, if you can plug a mic in, can you change the audio levels on the camera? Most cameras in theory will have this option, but just double check, because you need to access the audio recording levels depending on what you're shooting, because if the environment is too loud, then you need to bring the levels down. If it's too low, you need to bring them up. You get what I'm saying, right? What about video and photo modes? Does the camera shoot 1080p, 4K, 6K, 8K, 12K? At a minimum, in my book anyway, the camera should shoot 1080p. Essentially, this is high definition. A lot of cameras will offer 4K, which is my preferred choice because it offers higher resolution. And the higher the resolution, the better your video looks. And 4K also allows you to do all kinds of things when you're editing your video. You can zoom in a bit and not lose any quality. Something to note here as well is that 4K will drain the battery a little bit faster, it'll use more storage, and some cameras do not offer unlimited 4K recording. Some might stop after 5 minutes of 4K recording. So ensure that if you're going for a 4K camera, that it offers enough recording juice for your needs. Also to note, some other cameras have 30-minute recording limits for video, so again, this is something that's definitely worth checking out depending on what you're shooting. frame rates. So you might have heard the likes of 24p, 60p, 120 frames per P in McKinnon, all of this kind of stuff thrown around. IP. Now, the advantage of shooting something, we'll say, in 120p is that you can get silky smooth slow motion from that 120p footage because the camera is recording 120 frames every second compared to 24p, which the camera records 24 frames every second. So if you're going to be shooting some B-roll bangers or want to record really good looking slow motion, you got to consider all this. Autofocus. This allows the camera to focus automatically. Autofocus, right? And in theory, it should hold focus perfectly, but autofocus can be hit and miss in some cameras. Some cameras will have eye autofocus that will track your eye or your head, so you'll always be in focus. Now, depending on what you're shooting, it all goes back to this. Autofocus is very useful, and a good autofocus system is one less thing to worry about. Stabilization. If you're doing talking head videos, then your camera should be on a tripod for the best part. So stabilization isn't that important. But if your camera at some point is going to be moving at all, like vlogs or whatever, stabilization is a big deal and can vary hugely between different cameras. Cameras like GoPros do electronic stabilization, which a little algorithm runs it all, and it's phenomenal in the right lighting conditions. But other cameras will have a physical axis of stabilization, say like 5-axis stabilization, where things are physically moving and happening to the sensor to keep the image steady. Something a lot of people forget about is power. So small cameras equals small batteries, which drain faster than bigger batteries. Upside, small batteries are cheap and small, so you can buy a few and shove them in your bag. Can the camera take external power like a USB brick so you can recharge in the go or constantly have the camera powered? If you go on the route of a camera that allows you to change lenses, which lens do you shoot with? This one? What? Again, it depends on what you're shooting. Now, so this has been shot on a Sigma 16mm 1.4 lens. This 16mm means it's a wide lens, and that's the only focal length, so it's a prime lens, and it's getting a wide field of view. And the 1.4 is the aperture, which means the lens can get some great depth of field. Like, check out that blurry bokeh background. See, I'm relying on the autofocus here. And it can suck in a lot of light compared to other cameras. There's quite a difference in the look between lenses, as we can see here, between the Sigma and the Sony. Now, maybe you need a zoom lens, maybe you don't. Either way, a camera that allows you to change lenses can certainly not limit your creative freedom, but again, it all goes back to my first point. Now, here's the thing, an age-old tip is if you're going down this route of interchangeable lenses, spend the money on the glass, not the camera, so better lenses, better quality. Before we get to the biggest question of all, there is another thing to consider here with all of the above. Where are you shooting all of this? Will you have lights? For example, some cameras are really bad in low light and the image will fall apart, like GoPros and even iPhones. They work fantastic in a well-lit situation, but in poor light, the image is, it's not the best, shall we say. So will you shoot with natural light, maybe like a window? What happens when the light changes or suddenly it gets cloudy? Natural light is phenomenal, but you're always against it, so consider lights that give you control. Even a cheap ring light will be better than nothing. Now, the biggest question of all that's left, and hopefully you've written down a few notes, and more importantly, you've got some answers throughout this video, but here's the big question. Which camera brand do you buy? Some people will prefer Sony over Canon or absolutely love the idea of Panasonic. But let's get one thing very, very clear here. There is no perfect camera out there. Nope. Some have features that others don't and vice versa. Some cameras will have better stabilization and so on and so forth. But there is no perfect camera. It's always like a balancing act of priorities. So if there's no perfect camera, what do you buy? Go back to your notes and answers, and as promised, you'll find the perfect camera for you. And that's all that matters. Now, go make some epic content. And check this out, and hit subscribe. I'll see you on the next video, and until then, don't stop fighting for yourself.